All right. Can you guys hear me? All right. Okay, good. I'm currently, I will be your teacher for this lesson. My name is Stanley Jiang, and I'm a junior at Ridge High School in Basking Ridge. You guys can um, call me Stanley or teacher or whatever. And um, I think I am qualified to teach this course because I've taken multiple lessons in regards to computer science, both in the language C++ and Java. And also, I have had experience teaching um, Java at a past summer program. And also, I received a 5 on the AP computer science exam last year. So I will be sharing my screen now, and I guess we'll be starting. So the first thing I want to go over is class procedures. I want all of you guys to be respectful, willing to learn, and to like follow directions and listen carefully. And um, also, I want you guys to be on time because I will be starting at 7 p.m. every week. Um, in, in regards to enforcing these procedures, if you guys don't aren't respectful, for example, like commenting inappropriate stuff in the chat or speaking inappropriate things when I you guys, uh, I will be quick to, um, I can kick you guys out and also enforce other rules like that. The main focus of this class is to teach you guys the basics of Java and object-oriented programming. And in order to do that, I want to make sure that you guys are willing to learn and that you guys actually want to learn this stuff. So for those of you that are entering now, you guys are entering a bit late. So it is better if you guys come on time next time. Okay, so in regards to the benefits of Java, I'll be going over some of the basics of Java because this is the first lesson. Some of the benefits of Java over other languages, for example, C, C++, or Python even, is that Java is simpler. The syntax is much more readable, and it's more user-friendly. Additionally, Java is a good way to teach object-oriented programming, or OOP, because the way Java works is that we can create classes and objects in the way we define them and allow them to relate to each other is very straightforward, and it's easier to think in terms of classes and objects as they are more representative of the real world. And in that regard, Java is a more comprehensive language. Additionally, Java has a rich API, which means that there are a lot of already uploaded programs and methods that you could use based on the community at Java. And this means that it is easier to import, say, a program, and this makes writing like code a lot easier because we're able to copy the code from a previously available method, and this can allow us to like write games or whatever. Additionally, Java is a statistically typed language as opposed to Python, which is dynamically typed. And the point of a statistically typed language is that it is more beneficial for people who are learning the language because it enforces good programming techniques. People are able to, it's more strict and restringent on the way you type the language. And this enforces good programming techniques, like defining variable types for creating methods that otherwise would not be uh, readily available, I guess. So I can see your questions here. Do you guys have any questions as of now? I guess not. What Nathan Zhang asks, what prime algorithm do you prefer? I'm not sure what that question means in regards to prime algorithm, like finding the first n primes or what. And that you could do that in like basically any programming language, not just Java. And I think we could probably go over that in a future lesson if you guys are interested. Okay, so here's just reiterating the point we went over. Java is a good starting IDE, which is a programming language. You start learning coding because it's simple, it's easy to read, and there's a lot of learning material to cover. There's basic algorithms you can do on Java, but there's also another broad subject of like object-oriented programming, which is a broader field that Java introduces. Also, there's a lot of tutorials and guides around Java on the internet already. So if you have any questions or that, it's pretty much readily known information on the internet already. There's a lot of libraries and lots of code samples, as I mentioned earlier. Java community is quite broad, and a lot of game developers and code developers already use Java. So yeah. So I'll be going over some of the IDEs or integrated development environments that we will be using for this course, namely BlueJ, REPL, the IT Coding Bat, and Eclipse. So I'll be going over this more in a probably a Google Classroom post I will send out later because we will need to download BlueJ for the rest of the class. Of course, I don't expect you guys to have it installed already, but basically what you do is you just go to Google, you search up BlueJ Java, you press the first link here and you download it. That is basically how you get it, and you guys should have that installed before the next class. So any questions? Let's see. I don't know what this person's called. His name is not shown, but it says IntelliJ. And I know IntelliJ is another IDE that we could use. However, I would not recommend it. IntelliJ is similar to Eclipse in that both of them are more of the algorithmic type of Java, but in order to learn object-oriented programming, it's better to use BlueJ, which is the program I am recommending. Additionally, in regards to other IDEs for today, I guess we could use repo.it, which is on this website. It's an online based IDE, and it's really simple to use. You just press start coding, I guess, and you can create a Java repo like that. Yeah. So before I go on, are there any questions? You guys can open up the Zoom chat and type to me any questions. Uh, so we have to use BlueJ. I would recommend that you guys use BlueJ. Are the slides available after class? Yes, I will post any of the slides that we get through on the Google Classroom that I shared with you guys. And after I'm done with the lesson. I only use REPL. REPL does not enable us to correctly learn about classes and method structures, the relationship between various objects very well. However, for like the first few lessons, I guess, while we're focusing on like using only one class, REPL is probably fine. However, um, there will be a point where using BlueJ would be highly recommended and possibly mandatory. Any other questions? Okay, so here's a few more things that I would like to go over. So um, I will be trying my best to give like few mandatory assignments and homeworks. Um, However, for those that really want to improve or practice the skills that we are going over in class, I will post optional practices if there is any significant uh, wants for it, I guess, on Google Classroom. So if anyone is still confused about Java, I can post optional practices. In regards to the class session structure, there will be lectures, which is basically I teach you and demonstrate how to type the code, and sessions of hands-on work where you guys are able to practice. And for the first few sessions, we'll be focusing on lectures because you guys, I'm assuming, aren't very capable of creating Java code yet. So that's that. Possible polls. I'm currently trying to post a poll or whatever on Google Classroom because in regards to directing the course outline, I have not planned it out um, towards very far yet. So if you guys have any projects or uh, suggestions for projects that you guys want to give, I'm open to any suggestions as long as that they are informative and help me to teach you guys how to work the Java IDE. So yeah, I'm working on that. And muting and technology policy. Every week when I start the class, you guys will all be muted because I have heard that previous complaints about students not behaving. And in regards to technology policy, I want to make this Zoom course a very helpful platform in having us be able to communicate and also like teach and respond to each other. So I'll be enforcing a strict technology policy from now on. If I see anything that is inappropriate or not desirable, I reserve the right to kick you from this meeting or mute you. Nathan asks, do you use DMOJ? What's DMOJ? I'm not sure what that is. Okay, so in regards to the possible projects I was talking about, I have a few suggestions that I can make work. One of them would be like graphical design, like painting a picture and project. That might be something you guys have done in Python because I know that creating pictures in Python is quite simple, but using BlueJ and the Java IDE, you can create much more advanced pictures. And if I have time, I can show you guys an example of that later. I know you guys probably want to create games, but you could create a variety of games on Java. However, most of them would be pretty simple, like tic-tac-toe or something like that. You can also do like computational algorithmic focus on it, and we could learn how to create a calculator or something to that effect. Simulations are also something that Java makes really easy. We could simulate like the progression of a card game or something like that, and that's something we can do. So before we start the actual lesson, I guess, uh, I can show you guys a possible project that is something that you guys could perhaps um, achieve by the end of this course. We're hoping to at least. So this is a project I created as an example earlier. And this is on BlueJ. This is the code is pretty long. Yeah. Most of this is about graphical user interface, which allows us to interact with the user in a more conventional way, and also to create pictures and graphical designs using Java. Yeah. And here's what it does. So the goal of the game is to match the buttons with their corresponding labels. And for example, right now it doesn't work. So it says incorrect, but if you change the colors to match, it will say correct. And also there's a 3x3 version of that. And I'd say that's pretty realistic and pretty advanced goal for us to focus on for the class as of now. Do you guys have any questions? How do you create a Java in BlueJ? So BlueJ is an IDE, which is an integrated development environment for Java. So I'm not really sure what your question is, but in order to create a project, you would create something like project, open project, and then a new project or whatever, and you can create a new project. Yeah, and as we can see here, some of the basics of Java. This is a class, and yeah. Another person asked, "Are we going to do this?" And this is one of the examples I have in mind of a possible end project, and however, I'm open to other suggestions, and yeah. Another person asked, I don't know anything about programming and coding. Is this a class for beginners? Yes, this is a class for beginners. However, I was just demonstrating a possible outlook of something that we could work on and a possible final project that we could have demonstrating on the efficient use of Java programming, I guess. I can't find the project menu. Do you have BlueJ downloaded? I will post a video to Google Classroom hopefully later, teaching you guys how to download BlueJ. If I get any more questions about IntelliJ, I will kick you out. Nathan asked, do I do competitive programming? Yes, I do competitive programming, but as this is a course focused on teaching the basics and introduction to Java programming, I will not be focusing on that for the merits of this course. Are we going to do any coding this session? Hopefully we will get to some coding this session. We're actually ahead of schedule right now, but I have a lot of stuff planned. Are there specific guidelines to how you should name a file? I guess naming a file is for you, because you are the person naming a file and you want to be able to organize it well. For example, in competitive programming, oftentimes you don't want to write the same code over and over again. So having an example project of it already will simplify things. And whoever is writing on this is about to get kicked out. How long did I plan this meeting to be? I planned this meeting to be 40 minutes, as I stated earlier. Let's see. Is Java totally different to Python? I mentioned earlier that Java is statistically. Okay, how do I turn off annotations? Let's see, escape. Ugh. I see. Disable participants annotation. Wait, I can also show names of annotators. All right, thanks for that, I guess. Yeah, okay, so any more questions? Oh yeah, is Java totally different to Python? Both of them are coding languages. However, they're quite different. Java is one of the probably more standard types of programming languages in that it has like all of the similar components to C++ and C, which are your original programming languages, but they're more refined. Which one is easier, Python or Java? Python is honestly probably easier, but Java is better suited for teaching appropriate coding habits and learning habits for those that are wanting to learn coding in general. Okay. So the first program that we always do is, in the programming world at least, is the hello world one, which is basically a very simple program that just outputs a printed line to that outputs a printed line. So right now, I'll show you guys how to do this. So pretty much you'll go to repo.it and you create a project and it automatically does it for you, which is pretty nice. And when you press it, run, you press enter, it will say hello world. So that's what that does. Do you guys have any questions about that? Although it might seem pretty simple, but I want you guys to do this because it's going to be our first program and it's something relatively simple, and it's a good way for me to start off this course, I guess. From your way, you would go to repo.it, which is online-based IDE that I was talking about earlier. Press start coding. Select the language. Java, great repo. And that's all you need to do. Yeah. Okay, so hopefully you guys have all done that already. So some parts of the code here are, this is the class main, which is the same class, similar thing to like what we have here, but on repo, you are only allowed to create one class, and it's not as visually friendly for users to see. So that's the class. Here, public static void main string args, that is what we call a method. And a method allows the computer to do an action, and we will be going over how to create methods later. System.out.println basically tells the computer to print a line, and inside the parentheses and the quotes is the text that we are outputting. The reason we have quotes here is because hello world is considered a string, which is requires quotes around it. You guys have any questions about that? S out and tab. Okay, why can't I do S out and tab? S out, I'm assuming that's similar to something like C out, which is how to output a line in C++. Every language has a different way to output stuff, and I think that for beginners, Java, the way Java allows us to print a line is actually much better. System.out.println. System is this entire thing in general. .out means that you're outputting something, and print line means that you're printing a line. And then after that, you can create like new lines and stuff like that. It's pretty user-friendly, and it's very easy to understand. So in that regards, it's probably better than S out or C out in other languages, which are more random methods to output a line. Can I also do system.out.print? Yes, you can, but the problem with that is that in most scenarios, you would not want to do system.out.print because without the ln, your cursor will not be able to switch a new line, which makes outputting further more information very difficult, and you don't want to do that. However, a way to remedy that would be you could do system.out.print and then system.out.print, and then you can do like a slash or something to create a new line. I think that Python is easier though. As I mentioned earlier, Python is probably easier, but learning Java is more fulfilling and impactful for learning coding in the future. Is Java faster than Python? Java is way faster than Python, and that's one of the benefits of learning Java. Python has a lot of added simplicity, making a more simpler version of like C++ basically. But the problem with that is that it increases the runtime. So in the end, you can't use Python for competition coding. How long does it take you to learn Java? It depends on how much you're willing to learn and to what degree you are attempting to understand Java. For Java, there is no permanent, like you can't say that you are done learning Java at any point because there's always more to learn. However, for most, creating games where like what you guys are attempting to do, anything from like a month to like a year would probably be enough. How long have I learned Java? I've learned Java for like 2 years now, I guess, which is nice. Probably a little longer than that, actually. So now that we have Hello World tutorial done, hopefully you guys did it and were able to appreciate your first Java program. So I'll be going over some of the data types. So I'll be starting a lecture. We're kind of ahead of schedule now. So some of this is what I planned for next week, but I can start lecturing you guys on some of the basics of how Java programming works. So there are two types of data types, primitive data types and non-primitive data types. The primitive data types are what you usually use. When you create a variable, they will usually be any of these. The ones we'll focus on will be int here, which is an integer. For the most integers you're going to be using integer. However, for extremely big numbers, you'll have to use long, which is has more memory allocated to it, so you can store longer numbers. Char is your basic character. For example, like a C or an A or any character on the keyboard can be stored as a char. And another important primitive data type is the Boolean, which is a true or false. And true or false allows us to do a lot of the logic, reasoning, and algorithms that I can show you guys later. Some of the non-primitive data types are array and class. Class is what I talked about earlier, which is what we're putting all the code into. And an array is a list of primitive data types and allows us to organize it faster. For example, in my previous demonstrated program, I use a lot of arrays to create a lot of buttons and labels without creating them one by one. What is true or false? True or false is exactly what it means. True means true and false means false. For example, if I say, is 1 plus 1 equals to 2, the computer will say that is true. But if you say 1 plus 1 equals 3, the computer would say it's false. So as I was saying earlier, we need to have a class type to create, to create a variable name. To create a variable, in creating a variable, you need a class type followed by a variable name and then set that equal to a variable value. For example, as I was saying earlier, Boolean is either true or false. So if you're creating a variable, you can create a Boolean B, which B is the variable name, and set that equal to true. Another thing you can do is that you don't have to necessarily set it equal to anything. You can just say Boolean B and then set it to something later, and that is fine. And char, as I said earlier, is a single character, for example, a capital G or a lowercase g, and an integer I is any integer, for example, like 89 or like 42 or something like that. And the default fraction value is double, and double is a class type that allows us to define numbers that are not an integer and have decimal places after it. Someone is asking, how long is the class? The class will end in approximately 5 minutes. It is a 40-minute long class. So does anyone have any questions about this? I know I went pretty fast, but this is pretty simple, I guess. I think if you guys still have any questions about this, it will be easier to understand it once we get into the actual coding. What was the 3 non-primitive types that I mentioned? I mentioned integer, which is int, character, which is char, and Boolean, which is a true or false. Do only characters get quotes? Characters require the single quotes and strings require the double quotes. Should I use double or float? Either one is fine if you know what a float is. Okay, so some of the benefits of knowing what a variable is that allows us to store information. A variable is a name given to a specific memory location, and whenever we call upon a variable, it points us to the memory location it is at. So a value stored in a variable can be used later in the same programming, and we don't have to keep on typing the same number over and over again. Also, if we're doing multiple calculations at the same time, a variable allows us to do that because it saves any information that we have already calculated, and we can directly call the variable instead of doing the calculation again. In Java, unlike in Python, which I mentioned earlier, Java is a statically typed language, so all the variables must be declared before use, and that's a good programming habit to have. And if you don't do that, you will not be able to run your code. So yeah, I think I should reiterate that. In order to use a variable, the most common way to do that is to create a method. And the method is the main focus of what coding is, allows us to do a specific task and telling the computer to do it instead of us doing it ourselves. And the point of a method is that when we write a method, we can reuse the same code over and over by calling the method over and over again so that we don't have to type the same section of code repeatedly. And in Java, in order to create a method, it must be part of a class. So basically, you have a class, and then underneath the class, you can create multiple methods and call the method from the class as long as you are referring to it in the same class and you call upon it. Does anyone have any questions about that? No, I guess not. So method structure is pretty complicated. We'll probably be going over this next class as well, but since we have a few minutes left, I'll start talking about it. A modifier is the type of a method for what we, for the purposes of our class right now, we'll define the modifier as public or private. Public means that you can access it from other parts of other classes and methods. Yeah. A return type is the value that the method returns, and that can allow us to do calculations and refer to the calculations in a method in other parts of the code. A method name is the name you give a method. It should be descriptive of what the method is trying to complete. For example, like summing two numbers, A and B, you would call it summing numbers or something like that. A parameter list is the number of parameters you give to the method, and based on the parameters, whenever you're calling it, you have to give the parameters to the method so that the method can do something with the parameters to give an output. And if there are no parameters to be given, for example, if your method just prints out hello world or something like that, you would just leave it blank. And the method body is the body of the method, and it is the part we'll be focusing on to create algorithms to write code. And going over that, this is how actual method would look, not in words, but in an actual picture. You guys have any questions on that? I will probably be going over methods a little, give me a little review of it next lesson. So in the meantime, keep your eyes peeled on Google Classroom for a video on how to install BlueJ And I hope you guys are able to install BlueJ so we can actually do some coding next time. And yeah, that's all I have for this lesson so far. And returning, what does returning mean? Returning is returning an answer. For example, if if the method wants to add two numbers together, I would return a plus b as the sum of the integers that we add together, and that's the purpose of a method. But I'll be going over that more precisely next meeting. So overall, I'd say that you guys did a pretty good job first meeting of like paying attention and stuff. Although some of you guys were very nice, but that's okay. And I'm gonna end the meeting here. Thanks for coming in.